the undisputed controller king turns clutch consultant. Running point for Glittercloud Solutions with the same intensity he once brought to every 1v4. He's the tactician you call whenever your launch needs a little more lethal, whether it's Web 3 or Web 2 or just chaos. He turns marketing plans into map control from the king controllers to the concierge of campaigns. It's dub.
At some point, you're gonna have to start, saying like King of Yaps or something like that. It's fucking inevitable as Web3 gaming is. So just get over it. You can do it. I expect it next week.
To the ultimate smart follower, the man who's as electric on the mic as he is on the keys. Ain't doing that. Up next, he's the patron saint of spicy takes, the Hercules of hot mic moments. Once mocked as the golden fraud, now worshipped as the golden god. He turns roasts into reverence and myths into momentum. He's the comeback king of the Coliseum, turning every L into lore. All hail the glowing golden god. It's Jerry Singer.
Yo, president of the Rob Ford fan club, as they call me. Happy to be here, Sam.
Was that the mayor?
R.I.P.
Yeah, just put some respect on his name. Yeah, that is the mayor, Sam.
This is the mayor. That's Kohji's best friend, I heard. Mayor of Canada. Up next, a legal mastermind with a flair for Final Fantasy. He's fusing. Sorry, this fucking Rob Ford threw me off. I can't stop picturing his weird face that they keep using on all the documentary shit that they've been doing lately. It's bizarre. A legal mastermind with a flair for Final Fantasy. He's fusing anime aesthetics with airtight contracts to build a platform where characters and creators win. He doesn't object. He doesn't settle. He just crits for clarity and cross-examines like a cutscene. It's the walking audit trail with boss music in the background. It's Michael Christine.
Hey, what up, Brody? Really hyped for today's conversation. Thanks for having me as always. Let's get it.
Sorry that Rob Ford threw it off. That one was on me. Okay, I'm not even going to blame Jerry for that one. Up next, before Web 3, he was living the alt-tab life, toggling between spreadsheets at a soul-draining finance gig and debugging a barter app that only true weirdos loved. Now, he's the deck design disruptor who co-founded Parallel, scaling a side hustle to a sci-fi juggernaut with a sarcastic swagger only cynic savant who built a card game empire without ever once muttering, "Wag me," could have. This isn't a founder's story, it's a midlife patch note. Welcome back to the Prince of Parallel, the deadpan dealer of digital duels. It's Kohji.
What's going on, guys? Yeah, I didn't catch half of that intro. I don't know why. I'm a little bit out of it, but I'm happy to be here. Let's talk about some shit. But can we also just not talk about apes for like 3 hours though this time, please?
I look forward to, after every time I introduce a topic, Kohji going, I only caught the second half of that, and then giving like a real. Damn it, as a phone call interrupts me. Anyway, we move on. He can break down a subnet stack or a squat rack, whichever one earns more respect based on the room that he's in at the moment. A keynote presence with a raid boss proportion. His biceps are bandwidth and his reps are redundant, reliable, and ready to scale. He's the bench pressing bard of the blockchain, the avalanche avenger with alpha in his veins. Welcome back to the panel, the willful Will Spangler.
My girlfriend stole my keys this morning, so I've been locked in our building all day. But luckily, I have my cozy gamified hoodie to keep me company, and you guys, so I don't feel totally alone. Woo!
I hate. I'm envious of Will's because it used to be my body that got talked about and how strong I was, and then the moment he showed up, this young ox came and took my spot.
Wills is
He
who we thought
occasionally
you were,
puts it in
Jerry.
your intros, and I start thinking it's me, so I get ready.
Wills is who we thought you were, so what?
That hurt, dude. That actually hurt.
Fucking incredible. Up next, he's the dirty martini in a room full of milk drinkers. A one-man Yakuza side quest. He's the ghost in a corporate machine, the anti-hero of every VC group chat, and now the father of a very, very angry animated girlfriend. It's the titan of Taboo, the founder can't be bought. It's my man, Sinjin.
Yo, all right. I'm slowly waking up, but on my second Red Bull now, so I'll be ready to really rip some souls from your bodies in about 5 minutes.
Sinjin, how are you alive, dude? 2 Red Bulls at 4 a.m.? The fuck?
It's insane.
Yeah. As soon as I get 2 more cigarettes in me, I'll be ripped.
He took a
Yeah, dude, don't leave out.
He took a 4-hour nap and just woke up and chugged fucking Red Bulls like 1 minute in on the show. I don't get it.
That's crazy, dude. I'm half a Celsius deep right now at in the middle of the afternoon, and I'm about to have heartburn for the next 3 days. I don't know what the fuck you're made of over there, Sinjin. Up next, whether he's mining for Mithril or Alpha, this man makes it look effortless. A RuneScape romantic with late night legends in the NHL lobby and golf rage in his soul. He's our eternal scholar of strategy and suffering, simplifying markets, melting minds, and bank standing like it's his birthright. He's got maxed wisdom and no wasted clicks. It's Gnoc.
Actually, I'm currently bank standing. That was a weird
To the
addition there.
surprise of no one, Gnoc.
I just want to say I haven't thought about Rob Ford in like fucking 10 years, and now twice in the last 2 weeks, some guy from the other side of the fucking continent has had to start both of these shows with a mention from Rob Ford. I don't like it. Make it
Whatever,
stop.
dude. You guys talk about Trump more than we do. Okay. Also, is this kid actually a golfer?
Depends on how you define golfer. I hit the ball far. I don't know where the fuck it's gonna go, but it goes far.
Dude. See me on the fairway, kid. It's on. Next time we're in person, dude. $1,000.
I think it's because there's a documentary with Rob Ford's face like plastered on Netflix or something. Yeah, Park gave me a bunch of thumbs downs and then a bunch of thumbs up. I don't know what to do with this. I think it's about the golf though, because your boy likes to swing some sticks. Park, we'll fill up a golf cart, okay? I'll join the mix. Park can join the mix, and we'll all lose a bunch of money to each other. From mouse clicks to gas fees, the dev legend that make your grandma's favorite game is now building one for the chain. He's touched more card decks than a Vegas dealer and more code than Silicon Valley. He's now back with a new hand, combining centuries-old icons with tokenized tactics. 30 years of game design wisdom, zero tolerance for fluff. It's my boy, Kevin Lambert.
What is up? Unlike Kohji, you did have my full attention for that intro, and I appreciated all of it. Nothing but love, Kohji. I'm just playing.
Dude, nothing would make me happier than for Gamified to be the center of the Kevin Lambert versus Kohji Nagata beef that's going to happen all of 2026. I'm gonna manifest it, boys. Don't worry. And last but not least, he's the cold-blooded king of commentary, the gecko with the gift of gab, and the only panelist here who could safely hide inside of a shoe. At 2.4 pounds of pure pundit power, he delivers more punch per pixel than any warm-blooded host alive. It's the typhoon of tiny takes. It's Lemz.
GM coming to you live from my shoe, and yeah, looking forward to today.
Love you, buddy. And of course, Avalanche is more than a chain. It's where progress snowballs into real rewards. With Season 2 of the Battle Pass, every play earns progress towards legendary NFT drops and AVAX bonuses. No fluff, no filler, just a sleek system built for momentum. This is your Frost-forged ecosystem where every token fuels the climb. Friends become factions. Innovation elevates every interaction. Shout out to Avalanche, the kings of the North, and the official chain of Gamified. Man, every week I'm just so stoked about what they're doing. Last week my mind was melted finding out that Solo Leveling is the most streamed anime in the history of Crunchyroll. Also have a subnet, by the way. And dump the castles in the cloud because Game 7 is building kingdoms on chain. They're backing builders and leveling up devs with their credits program, plus bestowing soulbound loot on the loyal with Summon. Their fellowship is forming, and the final boss is traditional gaming gatekeepers. Join the fray where your grind gains gravity with Game 7, the official infrastructure of Gamified. And think you need a computer science degree to launch a game? Think again. At the Farcade, baby, we've been making building games as easy as posting a meme. Use our AI-powered studio and launch directly on social feeds like Warpcast, Telegram, World App, etc., and watch friends and strangers play instantly. Plus, you can walk away with cash prizes worth thousands. Build for fun, win for real. It's game time, baby. And we're trying to scale up this podcast, this space as a podcast, and it's a co-op campaign. So share us with a friend or a founder you think might benefit from this discussion and see if we can beat this boss together. I would love to see it. Gotten a bunch of 5-star reviews on Spotify. Thanks, everybody, from that call to action over the past few weeks. Really appreciate that. Would love a few more. What's the word? Ex-Riot employee 2 years ago raised $55 million. I remember the headlines going around about this one for Believer Studios. It seems like it's already shut down, though. 2023, $55 million, and less than 2 years later, already in the dirt. This was recently talked about on Deconstructor of Fun. It hasn't been widely reported, but Eric Kress from that podcast is deeply, deeply tied to the games industry, has a bunch of VC connections, knew people personally at the studio, and he was saying that he's heard from multiple sources that the studio is not currently running. So I believe him. It's a little bit of conjecture. I guess don't hold my feet to the fire if it turns out to be, oh, we just shed 80% of our employees and we're pivoting or something, like whatever. But essentially, $55 million doesn't exist over there anymore. From reputable names like A16Z, Lightspeed Ventures, etc., one of the founders, Chow, said, quote, "The dream is very powerful. We're not trying to do just another thing. We're trying to do something pretty big and dreamy. A great open world game would change the world." And while there's no official announcement about them shutting down, they apparently tried to raise at GDC and failed, and that's why now a couple of months later, it's coming out that they might be shut down. Their LinkedIn changed from being 51 to 200 employees, and now is at 11 to 50. But many people are changing their status and stuff, seeming that the writing is on the wall there. So what's the word for a game studio with an all-star cast, tons of experience, raised 55 million fucking dollarinos, and 2 years later, not here anymore? Tatted lawyer, I'm tagging you in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say the word is fiscal irresponsibility. Sorry if it's two words, but it just means that this gentleman had a hard time, running a proper burn for the studio. And with my own experience now, working with former huge executives that worked at these huge studios, what I've come to find is it's very hard to go from, unless you're like literally the person who started the studio, it's very hard to go from this giant studio to kind of a startup type of development studio, because obviously in a startup you need to be agile, you need to be lean, you need to be able to ship product fast. And in these huge conglomerates that you've seen from like a Riot Games, for example, they don't have to operate that way. They can, spend money over here. If it doesn't work, it's okay. They can spend money over here. If it doesn't work, it's okay. And so just knowing that this gentleman hired 200 people on his staff so quickly is a pretty good indication that they mismanaged the funds, because that's way too many people to kind of get the company going and get started. And so I think it's just a good lesson to be learned here is like, even if you're from this pedigreed background or you're from like this huge company, it's still very hard to run a startup and run your own company and run your own thing. When you're the person making all the decisions, when you're the person determining the budget, when you're the person determining hires, all of that's hard. And just because you were an amazing game dev, or you were part of an amazing game development project, it doesn't mean you're going to also be good at running a business. And that's evidenced by the fact that there's a ton of CEOs and a ton of just leaders in these gaming companies that have never developed a game in their life. They know the business of gaming, but they don't know how to develop games. So I think it just goes to show that just because you've worked at one of these studios doesn't mean you're going to be a good founder, doesn't mean you're going to be a good leader, and doesn't mean you're going to be able to manage your staff the way that you think you will, because all of your experience is from like a huge shop that has so many resources versus a newer startup that has to be like lean, agile, etc. You see this in law all the time as well, with these huge partners going out on their own, hiring too many people, and then realizing, oh, I don't actually need all these attorneys. Let me cut it down a little bit. Game development is a little less, or excuse me, a little bit more, or excuse me, a little less forgiving, just because once you spend the money, that money's gone. And if you don't have any ROI creating things, then that money is essentially burned and wasted in a very expensive lesson. So I think it just goes to show that being able to manage a company and being able to manage a burn and manage a team is such a difficult thing. It doesn't matter what your experience is. There's only a certain amount of people or a certain type of people that are able to actually step into that leadership role and be successful. So I do think that this is another story that just evidences that.
Wills, my man, I know that you have to look at the balance sheet of games and try to bring them to you guys. What do you think about these guys burning through 55 mil in just a couple of years and not being able to stay afloat?
Yeah, so I actually was just looking. I looked up Michael Chow and I looked up his kind of history, because I have a theory that all of the kind of ex Riot studios that you see popping up, if they join the company kind of post 2015, they're useless. And their takes on gaming are absolutely horrendous, and the stuff they go on to do usually crashes and burns. So one, this was a validation of that theory, because that's around when, about the time when League started getting insufferable. And two, if you look at his history, he came from Zynga, mobile games, and then did Jolly, which I forget exactly what they did. But the rough theory is you've come from making mobile games into a very heavy UA free to play model, which is what League of Legends, thrived and dined on. And then he started this studio that is going to be making an open world MMORPG. And those are completely different ballparks, because in the free to play mobile world, you can just throw money at problems. and they will go away because they're very sort of small, finely tuned games that don't need a huge. Obviously, League is in a league of its own. Kill me, but basically, like, you can't just be throwing up money at problems when you have these massive, expansive, larger games that are these much more curated experiences. So that's kind of what I predict. I'm not super familiar with what they were trying to do, but it sounds like they tried to throw money at problems and it didn't work, because you need to have, when you're making games like that, they got to be good. Free to play and mobile games don't really have to be good, and that's kind of the fundamental difference.
Yeah, it's interesting to me too, because all you really need to do if you're building a giant MMORPG that can raise that kind of money, you definitely don't need to show like incredible gameplay or really even traction. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But it's like you just need like a vertical slice that convinces people that the original investment was a good idea, and therefore a follow-on investment would also be a good idea, right?
For a
Coach,
while, I was just gonna say, for a while you just needed X Riot in the
yeah.
name somewhere, and people would throw $50 million at it, which is ridiculous.
And maybe that's the problem, is they raised on that, and now 2 years later you're not able to continue raising on that, and you also can't show product that's has any kind of product market fit, 'cause it's not far enough along for people to be able to understand it. I want to go to Kohji next, because I know 55 mil is basically his annual Blu-ray DVD budget, and I'm curious if you could just shrink down your mental model of how much money this is, Kohji, and try to put yourself in these shoes. What's the word for this?
Yeah, I mean, the word is unsurprising, right? Like, I feel like it's every week or every other week we have this topic or some variation about, okay, this thing is closing and they got all this money and now it didn't work. Like, that's kind of what happens, and we've been saying this every week, like, oh, this is what happens in the game industry. I'll take it one step further, man. This is just what happens in the startup business, right? And like, for lack of a better term, that's kind of what we're in. And it seems like a lot of money, but one of the things that a lot of people sort of forget, and if you're on the outside, you're not really running a company, like, if you want top talent, you have to pay top dollar, and not just top dollar, like, oh, these guys at Google or Facebook or Riot or whatever are getting paid X amount, so I'm going to pay them X also. It's like, no, you got to pay them like X plus, because why would they leave their cushy job with all the security for a company that could fold anytime, or like might not be around in a year or two? You kind of have to, like, there has to be a draw, and it can't just be like, hey man, this Web3 thing is crazy and you'll make a bunch of money. Like, that's nonsense, right? So you kind of have to give them a bit more, and so it becomes more expensive. And if you don't want top talent, then it becomes exponentially harder to make the thing that you said you were going to make, right? And so and also to secure additional funding and whatever, because people want pedigree, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not saying it's an insignificant amount of money. I know that it's in fact a lot of money, but these things take a lot of money, and most of them end up failing. And I don't just mean games, but startups in general. Take it from somebody who is making a game right now, who is Sam alludes to it in the intro, was like at another startup that raised a bunch of money and then had to say bye. These are the lessons that you learn, and hopefully, you do it enough times and you learn from your mistakes, and you sort of plan for the future, for the rough times and what have you. But like, when it comes to these topics, and we're talking about, oh, companies laying people off, to extend their runway, or companies folding or whatever, this is just what happens. It's part of the cycle. And for us to sit here and be like, oh, the whole system is in trouble, crypto's fucked, like, uh, that just shows how young and naive we are.
Yeah, to be clear too, this isn't even a Web3 studio. To my knowledge, they weren't publicly building something in Web3, but it is a good point that like startups just fail. And so whenever Web3 startups fail, it's not necessarily indicative of Web3 not working. It's just startups a lot of times. Jerry, I want to go to you next, man. What's the word here?
The word is par, as in for the course, which Gnoc would know nothing about. This is just what's happening with that like cycle of 2021, X Riot, what Wills alluded to, but like it's like the opposite of the PayPal mafia, right? You have people who like where those guys all went on to do like really cool shit. Everybody who's come from like ex-Riot, ex-Blizzard alumni, whether they went into Web3 or not, it seems like that whole cohort of people who, tried to start their own companies and build games have just not been able to figure it out. And I think it's indicative of is like how few people actually have visions for these things and can get the people around them to execute on them, right? So when you have somebody like Chow or you know the guys who went on to do like Wildfire and all the ex Blizzard people, it's they may have been really good designers, but I just don't think that any of these people were the ones that had like the initial thought and then were able to back out, and see a game come to fruition from that, right? And when you think about the amount of people who can actually do that, like in the world, it's so small. It's like probably 1,000 people in the world that can actually like have those visions and see them come to light. And that's why those people just tend to be at Nintendo for 40 years and continue to put out good games or stay at Naughty Dog forever, right? So, I mean, I think this is just like Web3 bears the brunt of like the shame for that cohort of people who, raised money in 2020 and 2021. But you see that it's a wider problem, and it's something that affected the entire games industry, not just metaverse or Web3 or anything like that.
Sam, I'm just going to inject myself in the show because I have to leave early. But we talk about this all the time, this idea that, like, hey, this wasn't the guy that, like, executed on all this stuff from X Blizzard, X Riot, X whatever. Like, it's a group effort. Making these games is, like, it's not one guy, And maybe you can point to, like, a handful of people that are, like, one guy who, like, had the singular vision, executed this whole thing, and it was crazy, like Minecraft or whatever. But those are the exception that prove the rule. And even like the most talented people, like I'm gonna bring it back to movies for a second. Steven Spielberg, one of the most prolific directors in the world, one of the highest success rates ever. You know how many movies he's written and directed? Like he has writing and directing credits on movies. Of the like 30 plus movies that he's made, fucking 2 of them. So for one guy to be able to execute a whole thing is like kind of insane. And
But
and
that's
so yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm not like pointing at you being like you're wrong. What I'm saying is that like having these credits, like they can be very good at their job, and things can still fail because it's a whole team. It's not just one guy.
Yeah, and to just add a little bit more onto that, Sam, quickly, is like this guy, Michael Chow, clearly was not like the Spielberg, right? He was the guy that would say like Spielberg would say, "Hey, I want the edit to look this way," and he'd go probably a really good doer, but he's clearly just not the guy who could bring that all together. Because to the point you made earlier, Sam, if they had a decent vertical slice right now, they wouldn't be in this problem. So I feel like they probably have nothing, and that's the problem. Is they're shutting down because they probably just have nothing to show, and that's a huge issue.
Again, to use the movie analogy though, like you can be the fucking man. Hans Zimmer, the fucking man. He scored all these movies, but like he also scored a bunch of dog shit movies that had great scores, right? So like it doesn't. He could have been the best at whatever the fuck he does, and still it could have failed. So I think just like kind of keep that in mind when we're like taking shots at some of this shit.
Dude, I'm getting PTSD from whenever I tweeted something about how LeBron James is still only 20% of the starting lineup, and even less if you consider the fact that at some point he sits in the game, and despite the fact that he's the GOAT, the Lakers still get wrecked in the first round of the playoffs because he doesn't have a good team around him. And I will never forget Mark Otero from Azra Games quote tweeting me and basically calling me a dumbass and being like, "No, you don't understand. Whenever you're really that great, you can single-handedly." And I was like, "My brother in Christ, you have 99 employees. Are you really telling me that you single-handedly are that important that you can make this project single-handedly function on your own?" And he was like, "Yes."
Yeah,
And I
I was
was
gonna
like,
say the answer to
"What the
that
fuck?"
is yes. He does think he is that guy.
To be a CEO at that
Also,
level,
to
you have to have
correct the record,
that level of
Michael
mental
Jordan
illness.
is the GOAT.
Sorry.
Jimmer Fredette is the true goat.
Yikes. Yikes. Tatted, what did you chime in with?
I just said to correct the record, Michael Jordan's the GOAT. Let's be for real.
Oh,
Yeah,
God damn it.
LeBron James has been to 7 more finals and still has less winning games in the finals than Michael Jordan does. Let's
And
all calm down.
and he embraced baldness. He deserves credit for that.
All right, guys, we're borderline beating this horse to death. So try to give me some unique takes. We're gonna move a little bit quickly. Lemz, I'm going to you, then to Kevin Lambert.
All right, my word is RIP, like RIP, because yeah, like the vision they had for this was kind of insane. Like to say you're going to build the best open world game is a lofty, lofty vision, or most, the biggest dream, or something along that. Those his words. One thing that was really interesting, I kind of wish we had Paul for this episode, was when I was reading the article about it. It's like the guy worked on Words with Friends, so like Paul might have had some insight here as to what their current state of affairs is, and maybe they haven't burned all the money and they're just downsizing to try and keep things going and keep the lights on a little bit longer as they figure out to get to their vertical slice. Because like Jerry said, it's pretty bad if they've burned a ton of money and they don't have anything to show for it. But maybe they're being prudent in doing that. But maybe that's just me being optimistic too, because yeah, it just feels like the graveyard of Web3 games at this point.
Can I add a fun wrinkle to this conversation, maybe, Sam? I think they were a Web3 game or trying to do something blockchain aligned, because they had that famous quote that came out where they were like, yeah, we like blockchain, but we're saying our NFT is like no fucking thanks or something. But they said like we're also going to use some sort of blockchain. So I don't know if like people remember that, but they definitely were supposed to do something Web3.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't remember that. Let's go to Kevin, then to Sinjin.
So let's see, the word overextended, which is not that unique from the other takes here. I agree with a lot of them, especially a lot of stuff that Tad had said about committing, about knowing how to run a studio when you're gigantic versus switching to that nimble, more hyper-focused mentality in a startup. But like the other thing is MMOs, especially open world, are really intimidating. Like, my God, I can't even tell you the number of times that when I was at like Monolith or in other studios and we're like, should we do an MMO? And a lot of us got really excited. And then like, the more lucid of the business folks were like, no, like it's just gonna like the chances go from hit driven business to like you're gonna they go to almost zero. I mean, 55 million is not the cushion it used to be for those kinds of games. Like 55 million doesn't get you anywhere near the finish line, like more like just past the starting line. Considering games like Destiny were like 500 million. Well, they reported that, but then maybe 100 to 250 million. I don't know exactly what the budget was, but 55 million doesn't do that much. But you get these big names that come from like, hey, I was the guy behind League of Legends, and if I don't change the world, I shouldn't even do anything, right? So the ambition gets really high as a result of that. And then, Sam, you made this comment about like, don't you just need a vertical slice? Yes, but it is so surprising, and it baffles me to this day how few game studios approach things that way. Like that's how we approach things. Like we left so many rooms of the house on Project O completely off limits, busted, not even started, on paper design, and just so that we could do a little vertical slice of combat, right? And that was really important. So few studios approach things that way, and I don't know. Startups do, but if you come from years in game development, you think you just have to deliver the world, and it's really weird. So why don't they have a vertical slice to show? Probably because they didn't take that approach, which is it's a little disappointing. Like they probably planned for a second raise 24 months out or so, and then got hit with the capital winter of 2025, which I'm sure surprised them as it surprised everybody. But maybe that's what they were hoping for. Like, yeah, we'll get the second raise and then we'll have something to show. And they're like, whoops, I don't know. But
yeah, a few great points there, Kevin. I think it is important to remember, if Concord costed Sony 400 million and Mind's Eye costed Sony again 300 million, you probably need at least 500 to get a really good MMO that can compete with Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft and stuff these days. Let's go to Sinjin, then to Gnoc, and then we're going to move on, boys.
Yeah, this topic is actually really really close to me in some ways. So even though we haven't taken on VC funding, it doesn't mean that we haven't talked to a lot of VCs. And in some cases, we actually were passed by the analysts and got shut down by the committee just because our IP is a little sexy, and some people couldn't really understand what we were really doing. But the feedback that I had gotten, even very, very recently, is that the consensus is that don't invest in a Riot-backed team, at least in Web3, because you know what the return has been thus far? Zero. Like a VC actually told me it's been nilcho, right? Either they have not even shipped. And, talking with some other industry people, there's this one, again, Riot executive backed VC venture. And one of their first hires was an executive assistant. Can you imagine that in a startup that you would spend your money on an executive assistant straight up? Well, one thing is you can't fault them. I think Kohji mentioned it as well. Like them raising more or assuming that they had to raise more. I mean, that was always on the table. And Michael brought up some really banger points right at the beginning. But I want to say that having being a gaming executive and being a founder after, it's totally fucking different. When you're an executive, the main thing that you need to have is really making strategic decisions, right? And you have to be very decisive because not making a decision, you can still just keep going because the revenue is already there. So you just kind of fade off and you become irrelevant after a while if you don't make these decisions, right? But when you're a founder, it's all about shipping that product and surviving. And a big part of that is risk management. I think someone else had mentioned about risk management and taking care of those funds. But it's that risk management is why you get the equity and why you're not an employee. And if I was to look at the top 100 executives in any gaming space or any industry, maybe about 10% of those are actually really good executives. The rest are all dog shit hacks. Okay. But if you look at entrepreneurs or founders and who are really, really good at what they do, it's maybe just 1 out of 100, right? The rest of them just don't have enough experience yet. And for myself in my own journey, 2010, I leave PokerStars, regional director. I'm tapped to be CEO in 2 years. I'm like, fuck you guys. I'm not going to wait 2 years. I can go do private equity or whatever like that. And I go in and I raise a shit ton of money because, my reputation, I'm literally the Prince of Macau, one of the princes of Macau. 2007 to 2010, that's when, Venetian had opened up. Macau's just fucking rocking. We're minting money. There's a global subprime crisis and I'm having caviar and gold flake, tuna, sushi for fucking lunch, right? And it takes me 2 years to actually unlearn being an executive. It takes me 2 years to really understand what is an entrepreneur, and then 2 more years to actually be a okay entrepreneur, right? And I was considered one of the best executives in my industry in online gambling, online poker, pretty much hands down, right? Within the top 5 for sure. Okay. And I can say now after all these years, I'm 10x the capabilities as an executive, as a founder than I was as an executive because I had to take on 5 different executive roles to survive, to not hire these guys. Because at a startup, one thing is the guys that I could hire who could do the work that I need them to do at my level, their salaries would be a minimum of 300K, right? But they're not good enough for a startup. Actually, the only people who are good enough to join you in a startup are other founders who are as passionate, but they're doing their own projects. And one thing I want to say is the article that you linked with GamesBeat, the glaze is unreal. They speak like executives because this guy, Steve Snow, he may have been the original creator of LOL at Riot, okay? Shipped by Riot, but he's actually not the original creator of LOL. It's Ginsu and Pendragon. And both of them, ironically, are named Steve as well, because they had the prototype that was made in World of Warcraft as a mod first. And if you guys don't know, Ginsu was I think the second major developer, or third major developer for Dota All-Stars, which was the major mod of Dota, right? That became Dota 2. But that was also the basis for LOL. And then there was also Pendragon, who became the next mod the next dev for it before like Ice Frog, right? And like I was actually there because I paid for their first community server when they were kids for DotaAllStars.com. And so like, you know, when you're really there and you see what really, really happened, it's really different than the glaze that these guys are putting on. And then what do you call it? The other guy, Chow, says like he's responsible for like the post growth or whatever shit like this, right? But you know, MOBAs, like what people don't realize about mods when they say just make a mod, you know, like mods are like the way to go for game development. These mods have been tested for fucking 6 years, 4 to 6 years as mods. Like the play test is fucking unreal. So if you already have that like game balance and stuff like that already worked out, right? That's like 99% of the learning and like the dev work that needs to go in, like the trial and learning that's already kind of done and tested in terms of like what, you know, the VCs love to call it like the product market fit and shit like this, right? And so like the narrative of like top executives coming in and you're bringing in like 5 top executives, it's great for initial fundraising, right? It is the fucking death knell for a fucking startup.
A bunch of interesting stuff there, Sinjin. Appreciate it. Gnoc, I'm going to you for a quick word, then we're going to move on.
Yeah, I won't beat a dead horse here. I'd just like to add maybe an alternative perspective. I think the word here is selection bias. I mean, like Supercell has spent more money than all of the previous Riot, Blizzard founders have raised on games that have never seen the light of day. And we don't talk about it because it's not a headline. All kinds of studios deliver a ton of games. They have ambitions to build games. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars on titles. And a lot of these games get killed behind closed doors because we never fucking see them and they never see the light of day, but we don't have a conversation about it because there isn't a headline about how Supercell bought Space Ape Games and they're going to dump $200 million into Boom Beach Frontiers and the fucking game dies after a $190 million cash injection. It disappears. It's quiet. We don't talk about it. Spooky Pop, Smashland, Clash Quest, these are games that most people here probably have never heard of. If you did play it, it was in a closed beta or early access state. The game died 6 months after, but we're not having these conversations. Everything that everybody said here is true. Building games, incredibly difficult. It's really difficult to operate from an executive position into a leadership position where you have to manage more than just your core competency. You have to balance budgets. You have to make sure that you're hiring the right talent. You have to make sure that everything operates smoothly. All of that is true. I also think it's true that we pay more attention to these headlines because it's X Riot and it's X Blizzard and it's X Bethesda. Oh my God, we love the games that those companies make. Surely this executive will deliver the next great game, and we pay attention to it and we hyper focus on it. I wholeheartedly believe that the reason why these conversations come up so often is because of selection bias. Bigger games die all of the time. We don't talk about it because it doesn't have the headline.
It makes me think about Shrapnel a lot, which was 5 or 6 different Microsoft devs, and executives, and they continued to act like executives and not people that.
That was my word,
It's
actually.
like the old guy, you know. It's like he's like, oh, in high school we won state champions in baseball. Like, nobody gives a fuck. What have you been doing for the last 30 years?
Yeah, the other consideration here is League is old as fuck at
Damn.
this point, right? It's like 15 years old. And so to be like, oh, for sure they could do it again without a resume that reads like Paul Bettner's, where he literally is doing it every 5 years, it's a little bit harder. I mean, think about how many musicians still have a finger on the pulse 15 years later. Like in hip hop, it's literally Drake and
Sam,
Kendrick Lamar. That
just
end of
for
list.
you to start up the feud. I mean, Kevin Lambert's still dining out on fucking solitaire, so I would watch what you say, brother.
Oh, damn.
That's just because I put it in the intro. That's not him telling me to do it.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Hey, your
gonna...
grandma has some things to say about that, Kohji. Come on.
Get
Once
fucked.
my high school state championship ring off.
Guys, I'm going to knock out the ad reads a little bit early because we're going to talk about End, which is the new Treeverse token coming from Loopify, and I think that's going to be a juicer, and I just want to clear out the next hour for us to be able to do that uninterrupted. So real quick, Avalanche isn't just cool, it's cryogenic. As the official chain of Gamified, it's leading the charge with instant finality, L1 scalability, and a crew colder than an Ice Mage in Arena over time. If you're looking for the perfect way to dive into the gaming depths it has to offer, there's no better way than starting with AVAX, the Battle Pass Season 1. Play Gold Fever, Off the Grid, Spellborn, and other great AVAX games to earn AVAX tokens and rare NFTs. Thanks to AVAX for being an incredible sponsor and an even better gaming chain. And of course, we got to shout out to Farcade, turning everyday creators into game devs with tools so intuitive you can go from idea to playable game in minutes. The best part, you don't need an audience. We'll give you one. Post your game directly in social feeds, compete in creator contests, and you could walk away with prizes. It's game time, baby. And if you're tired of being a pawn in somebody else's playtest, Game 7 makes you the main character. Whether you're crafting code, championing communities, or just showing up and staying active, you'll be recognized, rewarded, and remembered with credits and soulbound status. And word on the chain is something big is coming. So prepare to power your plot line with Game 7, the official infrastructure of Gamified. Big shout out to all the sponsors. Love you guys. I want your sentiment score, though. Loopify finally announced it, the End token, and it's launching soon, maybe even next week. It's an ecosystem token for endless clouds. Apparently, they raised even more money, like 6 mil, under a foundation. He said, quote, "We were told to launch a token in 2021. We had $1 billion opportunity because of the hype we had in the midst of the biggest gaming and NFT run ever. We didn't do it because we thought morally it was wrong and we would have had zero product. We are now finally launching our token, even though we could do it later, but we think it's the right time for the community to ride along," unquote. I'm curious why you guys think he might be sensing that this is the optimal time whenever we haven't really seen a lot of success. Some people do say, hey, launch it, let it, kind of fumble and find its footing, and then hopefully take everybody for the ride whenever it goes up and to the right from there. He also mentions how he knows the typical token playbook inside and out and has been speaking to exchanges for years, market makers, managing float, etc. But sounds like he wants to do it his way, not the typical playbook. Oh, here it is: 6.25 million raised from VCs and angels. But what's more interesting is he notes they've generated 100 million in trading volume across their 3 collections, along with 16 million in revenue from selling things like the Treeverse land plots. Most of it came from 2 mints in 2021, so it could be that maybe they're running out of a little bit of money. Who knows? 4 years is a long time. With that being said, again, I want to hear your sentiment score about Treeverse finally deciding to launch their token and doing it now. Delv, I'm going to you, then to Kohji.
Yeah, dude, holy shit. My bullshit radar is like off the fucking charts here. Is that a 1 or a 2?
Yeah, that's
Like
a
this is
low end. Yeah.
that was the wildest shit I've ever heard. Like it's clearly the VCs were like, "Nah, dog, we've had enough of your bullshit and you waiting and not launching into when we could have made a bunch of money. So fuck you, you're doing it now or by this time." And now they're doing that and trying to put a fancy bow around it. I mean, yeah, we all know to go launch on Binance and the 5 fucking chains after that and to have a good Gini coefficient, which means to have all the tokens in a bunch of wallets. But no, yeah, that's the craziest shit. I mean, I haven't even seen Treeverse gameplay or played it myself. So I mean, I guess I'm a hater, but that's crazy.
So there is some Treeverse gameplay out there, and it looks pretty cool. I know some people that have played the beta. It doesn't look too bad. It's definitely a mobile game. But he also alluded, I'm trying to find it in the thread. It's kind of long, so it's hard for me to peg at a glance. But he mentions that because it's called the End token and not the Tree token or something, it also represents that it's going to be multiple games and it's like an ecosystem thing, sort of like Prime, probably to draw a comparison here. I'm going to go to Kohji. Kohji, what's your sentiment score? Them tagging in Lemz.
Now that you compared it to Prime, my sentiment score is going down. But um, uh, honestly, it's also on the low end for a multitude of reasons. One is as soon as you mentioned moral his moral issue to launching things, I'm like, my bullshit detector's also gone off, because I used to complain about the moral gray areas of Web3 and got laughed out of every Discord. So I think that anyone who's morally opposed to launching tokens is probably not in the right space. But I also I'm just gonna save all of us a bunch of time in the whatever 2, 3, 4 episodes later when this thing actually comes out. Either what a genius, he stealth launched at a dark time, and like it saved Web3 tokens, and now it's the next greatest thing, and everyone should follow this playbook. Or how dare this guy launch without consulting all of these companies and following the playbook that's been laid out time after time, and like these guys really fumbled the bag. They had an IP, and now like it's all nonsense, man. Like, all I can say is that you do what you think is best for your company when you think it's best for your company. And if he thought that holding on until now is what's best, then we gotta trust them, because there isn't a tried and true formula. No one has really like hit generational success at this point. And no one, there is no playbook, and none of us really know what the fuck we're doing, to be honest. And so, I think that we should give Loop and like the project a proper chance, because you know what, like uh, he's just trying to figure it out like the rest of us, and I think that um, maybe it will be the thing that saves Web3 gaming. But my sentiment score is pretty low, because I don't believe in anything anymore, because I'm browbeat.
Well, what I can say is, if for whatever reason this token launch fails, the answer clearly was to give me 3% unlocked at TGE, and I would have given him all the advice he needed to be successful here, not financial advice. Let's go to Lemz.
All right, I feel like you guys were. I'm going to give it a 5, because I'm kind of going to sit on the fence a little bit, middle of the road, because I have a lot of respect for Loopify, because he's been around, he's seen a lot of shit, and the fact that he comes out with this is like, what's his angle for the token? Because the tokenomics weren't in the white paper. They just finally dropped the white paper. They've been working on the game for years. My understanding is it still needs a good bit of work, but people did find it promising what was there already, but it still needed quite a bit of work. I do find the statement on the moral thing a little weird, because they raised 16 million from selling NFTs in 2021. It's like, you didn't launch a token in 2021, but you still kind of capitalized on that hype, which again, at the end of the day, it funded the studio, and if it gets you to build the game, that's all in good. But just, I found that statement a little bit weird. But I don't think it's like the VCs putting pressure on him, because it would be a weird time for VCs to be like, oh, you should just launch a token now, when we've seen all the launches are down bad. Unfortunately, I do expect this to probably end up the same way, unless he has some crazy plans up his sleeve to really come out of left field with it. I know they were building another game for a while, and they seem to have paused development on that. I'm guessing that was a prudent play to save money, because it was over a year ago they decided to pause that and focus on Treeverse. And just the fact he's been here since 2020, and he's seen so many things, I want to give the benefit of the doubt, but I'm still pretty much a skeptic on how this will go. And because the game also isn't fully feature complete yet, it's like, okay, why are you kind of launching the ecosystem token before the game is fully feature complete? Where that seems to be a common issue we've seen with games. It's like, hey, maybe if we see some tokens come out when a game is feature complete, they might actually have a bit more stickiness and sustain a bit more. I do kind of expect it to be probably go the way of other tokens, but I'm holding out a bit of hope and optimism that he has something cool up his sleeve and will come out of left field and do something cool with it.
To add to that sort of, I guess, conspiratorial vibe that you have with some of that statement there, Lemz, most VC cap tables and vesting schedules are about 4 years. Is it possible that maybe the VCs have reached the equity vesting portion of this, and now they're like, well, the only thing left is for you to launch a token so that we can get that part of our investment back? Sinjin, am I completely off the rails here, or is there something to that?
Well, there is something to that, because a lot of the token only contracts have a clause where if they don't launch by X amount of time, like the TGE, right, that they'll either refund it or they'll get an equity change on it and stuff like that. But yeah, I give it a 5. I echo almost everything the Lemz says in this. The only thing I'll add is that as another founder and Loopify, he's been around. I mean, I love his content. I think he's solid of what I know of him online. But if you read their white paper, and then also they are also a legacy project, if you want to even say it like that, from 2021, where they had done all the kind of meta right moves, but the land sale and everything else like that. But if you put it all together, right now, minus all the meta and the hype for the moment, and you look at the big picture of what they've kind of promised or created, or the framework they've done, right? No one's made a land sale, right? Make it work in terms of the product side of it, because the scope, and then you have, a need for a revenue or economic kind of model for the NFTs. for the in-game, and then you need another economic model for the land, which is part of the ecosystem, and then the ecosystem aspect of it is another massive like lift for development, right? And to put it all together, it's not even like no one's kind of figured all of it out in terms of the TGE and a sustainable thing. That's one thing, but no one's actually figured out like the entire like economic like level loops and systems for land and ecosystem either, and that's even like a fucking like 10x lift from there, right? Like I'll say for us, right? Like we haven't launched a token because our game is not out yet, but we will launch a token after our game is out. But that's the token that we launch will happen, whether it's like 1 month or 2 months after the game is launched, to make sure that the game can make revenue to support, a token that's in game, that works. And then yes, we have a plan for an ecosystem token, but the ecosystem token is only going to come out when the ecosystem comes out, because it's this issue is that whenever you have a token, you have like an open like supply issue on the secondary market, which you really don't have any control over. And the current narrative on Twitter right now is basically like, this is not possible. No one has ever done it. And so you better just put a stable coin in, or just like not have tokens at all. And it's not because like the idea of the benefit of this isn't still valid. It is very much valid. I mean, if you could print your own token in game and it to have stable value, like your economic kind of like incentives, or like what a war chest or whatever, is just insane, right? It's like, why do countries not dollarize, like using US dollars when they're a new emerging market? It's obvious they should, but you lose so much of the monetary policy like tools for your country, and you're like, might as well just be like another state or a mayor getting like federal funding. So I wish them all the best, but I will say, even on the best day of my life and I was 500 years old, I would still have a fucking hard time doing this. And especially like what they've set up. And of course, I have a fucking huge opinion of myself compared to all the peons in this space and whatever. And I'm saying like, fuck, man, like what they would do, I would, even if you paid me like $20 million to advise for a guarantee, I wouldn't fucking take that money.
Yo, 2 Red Bull Sinjin is MVP, man. I'm calling it right now. I might have to leave early, but he's already got the MVP.
I'll consider that vote whenever the time comes. Thanks, Kohji. I want to go to Gnoc. Gnoc, I need a steelman here. Somebody steelman for me. The optimistic, Loopify is onto something. This is the perfect time to launch. Give me that take if you have it in the chamber, brother.
I'll give you some optimism, but I don't know that it'll follow that. I think that this was great for what is going on with Treeverse, because it wasn't raised for Treeverse. So they're geniuses for raising this through a foundation and launching an ecosystem token that still allows them to release a tree token downstream and capitalize there as well. Again, non-dilutive raise for a foundation. They're launching that token. I would assume that part of the condition for raising that money is launching a token in the shortcoming, or in the next little while here. Part of the reason why it's probably going to the foundation instead of to the team is because they're going to launch an ecosystem token, which isn't applied to the game. So I think that is here's the optimistic take. I think it's a very clever approach to launch a token without implicating the game directly and bring in more funding. I agree with everything that Lemz said. I think Loopify and the game itself are both a really good dude, seemingly, and the game itself looks like a ton of fun. So I'm optimistic that this game gets to the finish line, delivers, and people can play and have a ton of fun with this game. But to me, to your point, this feels like we needed more capital. We needed some finishing funds to get this title across the finish line here. And one of the ways that we could do that without directly implicating the game is launch via foundation. So the optimistic take is really smart way to approach it.
Jerry, can you pull him off the ledge? Can you give me a 10 sentiment score? Can you tell us why Loopify is a mad genius?
I cannot. I can't tell you that my bullshit meter is also a little bit redlined here, and I'd say I'm at a 3. Because whatever, everybody else made good points, so cool. But my thing that I take exception to is him being like, I know the playbooks, I know how this goes, I know what to do here, blah blah blah. while also telling us he's going to do the same bullshit thing that everybody else has done, right? Like, we already know how this is going to go. We've already seen a million other gaming projects launch a token, you know, well before like feature complete game release, and the token to go down. So to like say that you know what's happening, you know what you're doing, and then like stand on that moral high ground, it's like to me just like a little bit intellectually dishonest from a person who I actually like a lot. I like Loopify. I want Treeverse to do well. I think it's going to do well. You know, everything, it looks great. But to to say that like you're doing something different and then just do the exact same thing everybody else has done, I kind of take exception to that. So like for that reason, you know, I'm just a little bit low. I'd like to see a team like this that you know I think has potential. Just push it off, right? Just launch the game first and let it bake a little bit, and then figure out the token. But you know, they're just doing the same thing everybody else has done. So go look at any gaming chart. This will be what happens.
Well, so the game is launched as on the Epic Game Store, also on iOS and Android. So it is out. I can't speak to how feature complete it is, but they are in a post game launch world, and they're approaching season 2. Dump with the hand up. Maybe you can add some more context since he plays everything.
Yeah, I got you, babe. You need someone to sell you a dream. I'll sell you a fucking dream. I mean, this is the most impeccable timing to launch what I can see as the most brilliant token I've seen come from gaming. It's literally called End. It's the end of all of our worries.
The end
It's
game.
probably the top ranking SEO term out there for tokens if you really think about it. Taking a look at Loopify's profile, you can also see one of his first quotes is, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work." So clearly he's not going to follow those 10,000 ways that he knows doesn't work. It's a down market right now. So coming in at the bottom means there's only up to go. We're literally at the end of this bear market, and this end token is signaling that end. So I hope that's the end of this topic as well.
Thanks, Dub. I appreciate that. Yeah, surprisingly, I thought you guys were going to debate it a little bit more heavily, but yeah, it seems like we've reached consensus, and I'm sad to hear it, to be honest. If Loopify or anybody that is supportive of Treeverse is listening, I actually think the game looks quite cool. I think Loopify is one of the best content creators and level-headed, logical people that we have in the space. I'm absolutely 10,000% rooting for them to succeed, and I hope that this blows all of our expectations out of the water. But it's interesting that none of us can see it from the outside looking in and go, "Oh, I get it." And it's scary, but also, you know, nobody's really succeeded at doing this at a high level in the Web3 gaming space. So therefore, you know, he has as good of a chance as anybody else. Kohji, the hands up.
Yeah, real quick. I just want to say that like my take was pretty pessimistic, only because we haven't seen a lot of success lately in general, and it's pretty hard to shift the narrative on your own. But I want to reiterate because I said it earlier. Like I think that like none of us really know what we're doing, and so like he has as good a chance, and probably better chance than most, because he's been around and had a lot of success. And I think that if anyone can do it, he's one of the people that I would put on the list. So uh let's see what happens. It's just it's hard to be optimistic when you know everything else around you isn't all that shiny.
Yeah, hard agree. And again, whenever we all look at the market conditions and sort of how the last few tokens have been interpreted, and we go, I probably wouldn't launch into it, regardless of what it is, who it is, what it represents. It just feels like maybe not the time. But best of luck to the Treeverse, the Ends team, I guess I should say, because there is a foundation in between them now, and rooting for those guys. We move on. Dump Date or Marry, 3 promising Web3 games showcased at Steam Next Fest. You love to see it, man. I remember getting listed on Steam once upon a time was a massive headline. From the Bornless, I think, was the first one to really break out and do it, which was awesome to see. Now to have them featured at Next Fest, we got Riftstorm, Sparkball, and the Bornless. So big congrats to all 3 of those guys for being featured. We do have Dub, the head of BD at Sparkball. I will be shocked if Sparkball isn't leading his sort of Dump Date Mary here. But these 3 games all have focused on delivering quality gameplay first and have less focus on the Web3 side. No tokens between these 3 games, all very, very playable. 2 of them ranked in the top 50 most played games during Steam Next Fest as well, which you love to see. Who you dumping, who you dating, and who are you putting the ring on? Dub, the hand was up first.
Yeah, that would be wild if I dumped Sparkball here and announced my departure. But I'm obviously marrying Chandler and Sparkball here. I'm dumping Riftstorm just because I like the way we talked about it last time. It sounds like it's an overcrowded genre. It's a game that we've tried a bunch, Sam, and I've never gone back to. Despite going and playing it and going back to, I just never retain on it, and the loop never really made sense for me. I love the team, and I hope it works out. But if I have to dump someone, I'm dumping that one, and I'm gonna date the Bornless, even while I'm married to Sparkball, just because I absolutely love the team over there and what they're doing, and I know the proponents against it and everything because it's a shooter, yada yada, or whatever. But they got goddamn soul, and it's almost Halloween, so they're poised for a big success here. And I have a heavy amount of their NFTs, so it's important to pump my bags.
God bless, Dub. Well done. Kohji, over to you.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to marry the Bornless. I echo Dub's statement about the team being great. I believe I judge based on the team, less so on the product, although they also have a great product. But they also were smart enough to sort of like pivot slightly and change some things when they found certain elements of their game not working, instead of doubling down and pushing forward, which is what we see a lot of in this space. So definitely marrying those guys. I really believe in what they do, and also just great people. Um, I'm gonna marry Sparkball because Sam won't shut up about it. Whenever we're in a sort of like we're talking about gaming like outside of this space, like let's play games together. He's like, oh, let's play Sparkball. Let's play Sparkball.
Come
Let's
on,
play
Kohji.
Sparkball. Yeah. So
Just
I
give
mean,
me Inksy.
it's got to be good if he's trying to rope me into it on my free time. So I'm dating those guys, and yeah, I'm gonna
He
dump.
also liked dimensionals, so just remember that.
Well, we can't win them all. Um, I'm gonna dump Riftstorm because it doesn't look like it's for me. Now, mind you, I haven't tried it, so how dare I? But and then I'm just gonna add in another category here. If you guys are into next best games, I know it's not Web3, but everyone should play Clover Pit because it has like the fucking ultimate sauce. Trust me, it's gonna be the next greatest thing. Uh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, somebody at GDC this time around, so whatever, 3 months ago it's been now, brought me a Dimensionals T-shirt, which I just thought was like a great burn gift at the same time. I didn't know what to do with it. To be honest, I did end up throwing it away because I was like, this doesn't deserve space in my suitcase. But I do stand by the game loop was good, man. It was genuinely fun. I'm going to Tatted, then we're going to tag in the co-host Lemz.
Yeah, so unpopular opinions based off my other panelist is I'm going to dump Sparkball. I think I think it's a cool game, but I think it's a very hard genre to break into. And me as a viewer, who I've only played Sparkball once, I usually like to watch the games first before I play them sometimes, and it's just the most confusing game in the world as a viewer if I don't know what's going on. So that's my only reason for dumping Sparkball. I think it's a wonderful game. I know they worked really hard on it, but to me, it looks really, really confusing. I don't want to watch it, so I'm not going to. I'm going to date Bornless. I think core games are a huge new genre that's emerging really, really fast. If you look at any kind of like Steam charts or anything like that, you'll see horror games like starting to grow really, really rapidly, and that's obviously brought on by the onset of streamer culture, where a lot of people watch games versus play them themselves. And if you're watching a horror game, everybody's entertained. It's a really, really easy thing for streamers to stream because they can pretend that they're really, really scared, and that's just what audiences like these days. So I'm gonna I'm gonna date Bornless. I'm gonna marry Riftstorm. The one question I do have about Riftstorm is whether or not they have a potential mobile version coming out, because everything I see from this gameplay, I think would bang very hard on mobile. Like in a really, really big way, similar to how other similar style games do really, really well on mobile. So if they do have a plan for a mobile release, I think it's going to do extremely well. Generally, having competition in a field isn't a bad thing. It means that you're in the right field. The only caveat that I'll say about that is shooters, just because to break into the market of shooters, or to find to pull players of shooters away from their legacy titles is probably the hardest thing ever to do in the world. But other than that, I think most gamers do like to explore other types of games, especially this style of game. And this style of game is really, really popular amongst a lot of various different gaming fandoms. So I think Riftstorm is going to do really, really well, especially if they're planning to go mobile as well as PC and even console. Like I could definitely see this on console. So gonna marry Riftstorm, date Bornless, and dump Sparkball.
Dude, I agree with you on horror being, in my opinion, by far the most approachable genre of the three. It's like every week is another horror game that pops off, and even the ones that are incumbents, like Dead by Daylight, are very seasonal. And people play the new one for like 2 weeks, then they are bored for 3 months, and they go do other stuff. Roguelikes are just insanely saturated, and then MOBAs are just insanely stagnant. And I'm not sure how you can have confidence going into either of those because of those two things. But I digress. I'm going over to Kevin Lambert, then we're tagging in Jerry.
I'm gonna end up matching Kohji on this one, but coincidentally, I'm gonna marry the Bornless. They've got strong identity, very approachable, like you said. Survival horror is, and they've got slick marketing, right? I mean, we've seen some good things that lead to why this game is going to be around for a long time, and I like to see those clues and elements early on. I feel like marrying the Bornless, it might be weird, but you won't be bored. And they've got a lot of long-term ambition, which is what you would like to see in a marriage. I date Sparkball. It's got promise. It's chaotic. It's got that MOBA hybrid and sport energy. So it's interesting. I don't know where that one's going to land, but it's trying something different. And that is really cool. And that's the kind of thing, it also looks like it's still kind of figuring itself out. But UI pacing, onboarding, it could either be amazing or you could burn out fast. And I don't really know, but I love that they're trying something different and I enjoy watching it, which is cool. So that's a date. That's a romp of a date for me. And then, that just leaves Riftstorm because you have to dump somebody. And, it's a very cool concept, but it's fighting for attention in a very crowded genre, right? Like the top-down shooters, right? It does have some, it has some appeal, but like as far as its standout appeal relative to the other top-down shooters, PvE extraction meets roguelite is pretty cool sounding, but I mean, it's got to have the juice and the polish and, or the IP popping, or it will risk being a little forgettable. So I don't know. I don't dislike Riftstorm at all, but I had to pick one to dump, and that was it.
Fair points across the board, K-Lam. Jerry, Riftstorm, Sparkball, the Bornless, all three prominently displayed at Steam Next Fest. Which one you dating, which one you dumping, and which one you putting a ring on, brother?
Do you have the numbers for like how they performed? I know you said 2 were in the top 50. Like, do you have anything
No
else?
spoilers. No spoilers. You got to make your call first.
Okay.
The Bornless was first, followed by Sparkball, and then Riftstorm consistently every day with 20 spots in between.
Nice. Okay. Well, then I will date or I'll marry the Bornless. I think I've glazed them enough over the last few years. But yeah, horror, seasonal. I think there's some really cool licensing they can work with. I'm switching this. I think I'm gonna date Sparkball because like everybody that plays it says like it's so fun and it's the best Web3 game they've ever played. And though I kind of skew towards like what Michael said, like I've played it, I had fun while I was playing it, but like I wouldn't play it like endlessly. I think that just people have had enough of a positive experience with it that I think there's got to be something to that, and I've heard it from just multiple people over and over again. So yeah, it's like Kevin Lambert said. It's like she kind of doesn't do her makeup well. She's like weird hot. Like your friends are like, nah, dude, she's ugly. But there's like that one person that's like ugly to a lot of people, but you're like, I'm weirdly into this. That's kind of Sparkball for me. And then Riftstorm, whatever. I think it's cool, but I don't know. I don't. Roguelikes just seem like they come and go, right? I would love to see them make that just like instead of characters. I think if they made them like if they made like a waifu game, like hot anime chicks, I think they would crush though. So I would change it all if they did that. But yeah, Riftstorm's just kind of not it's not doing it for me lately.
The reskin coming soon, I'm sure. With that being said, you know, to speak to Sparkball, I think part of the reason that people feel that way about the game is because it's a combination that you just cannot get anywhere else. Like if you said like I'm taking Riftstorm away from you, I would go like, okay, I'll download 20 other roguelikes. If you said I'm taking away Bornless from you, I'd be like, okay, I could be scared doing something else. But when you take Sparkball away, it's like where else do I score goals in a MOBA? Like it's just so different. And so for people that it clicks for, it's like, wow, this is the only place that I can get this. Probably not for long, seeing how many things are turning into insert game genre with ball mechanic, but like it's pretty ahead of its time in that regard. I'm going to Sinjin and going to Gnoc.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like typical Sinjin. I'm gonna like screw the gameplay a bit here and just say I would date all of them, and the reason why is because I think these are representing kind of the best of you know, the Web3 industry. Sorry, Sam, I love you. In the sense that they're the polish is great. They have solid gameplay to be able to, you know, have confidence to release like this, and like, you know, having a polished game, I think it's just kind of fantastic in terms of like with the gameplay for like even, you know, having the balls go out on Steam and the Steam net Steam, you know, net
Give him another Red Bull. Get him another Red Bull.
Dub, check on our boy. Did he just
I'm on it, bro. I don't know what's going on.
what the fuck? Somebody get him an
Dude, when you do
EpiPen.
CPR, do it to the beat of "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees.
Yeah, everybody knows that's how you do it, dude. I'm gonna go to Lemz in the meantime while we figure out if Sinjin is still alive.
All right, this one kind of pains me a bit because I like all three games, and I'm going to go with probability. What I feel is the probability of success. Where I've glazed Bornless a lot too. I've been a long time. Oh, we got Sinjin back. Maybe not. So marry Bornless for sure. I think they're a scrappy team that were bootstrapped for so long, and they have stretched out their funding and everything and done a really good job in like getting into the Steam indie communities, into the horror. Like someone, I think it was you, Sam, mentioned earlier, like horror kind of has these like waves, and I feel like people in those games, they're open to new horror games. They're not like the people who like they're a shooter and they're like committed to this one game and they won't try other games. So I feel like they have a good chance of doing well there. I love Sparkball, and I'm sorry, Dub, and I'm sorry, Chandler, but I'm gonna date Riftstorm because I just think it's got more appeal to it. I think the like co-op thing is also like co-op seems to be getting a bit more traction as well. Like people are looking for more co-op games and seeing like co-op PvE things. So I think that's an interesting thing. And I think like Tad had kind of summed it up as well on the Sparkball side of like it is complicated to get into, and I think that friction point is just a challenge for MOBAs. And like what is the one that you and Peyton love, Supervive, Sam? It's like that's another like great MOBA, and it's just like struggling again as well. And you have a game like that that's like really, really good, and in that, you know, it's not exactly the same, but it's still the same genre, and it's struggling to break out. I just feel like Sparkball is going to have an uphill battle in that sense. I really wish my choice wasn't that, because I think I have had more fun with Sparkball, I would say, than Riftstorm. But yeah, it's that's where I think it'll probably end up landing. But like Sinjin said too, like I would just like to see all three do well, because they are three really strong titles we have that are polished in Web3.
I'm going to change my answer and also multi-date Riftstorm, and then I'm going to dump Sinjin's internet connection.
Sinjin, back to you. Who you dating? Who you dating? And who you dating?
Yeah. The internet connection's fine, but fucking Elon rugged me, or Sam asked him to rug me on that case because I fucked the game mode. Yeah, you know, the thing that really kills me here is that, yeah, Steam is a great, clear distribution channel, right? But Steam explicitly is like no NFTs, right? No Web3. So it's, I don't know if the word is ironic or like, I don't know, whatever, like, because like these are like three leading Web3 projects, and yet there's no Web3 elements in the game. And that's why, you know, I'd play the field until one is kind of really marriage worthy. Because like if Web3 is a 10x and we have like these three games that are like pretty much at Web2 parity, I mean, yes, that is a massive win in terms of like, can Web3 create great games? Yeah, fantastic, right? But until they show me like that they have like are able to really put in the Web3 elements and make it 10x, right? It's kind of like I'm dating these ladies and I want to have kids, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna have kids. I'm open to having kids, but I'm not gonna put the ring on the finger until they definitively say, yeah, let's have kids.
Fair enough. I don't know if you should be having children again at your age anyway, Sinjin, with how many Red Bulls you're pounding at 4 a.m. So God bless. And we're gonna move on. Actually, let's do this last one. Let's go to the final boss here, because I think this also might take up some time. If not, I'll squeeze in another topic. This is the final boss. You got to take a side on this one. If you say I agree with what everyone else said, I'm going to mute you. Fuck off with that. Over under 3 years until AI prompts let a 10-person team build a game like Zelda Breath of the Wild. In a recent interview with Tim Sweeney, he claimed this will be possible due to AI prompting in the next few years. He said, quote, the battle royale genre itself only became possible when you had enough performance on hardware and engines that you could have 100 players in a single play space. What would it take for a 10-person team to build a game like a Zelda Breath of the Wild, in which, excuse me, the AI is doing all of the dialogue and design, and you're writing some character synopsis? That's totally going to be within reach over the next few years, said Tim Sweeney. So over under 3 years until we're seeing basically AAA game development with small teams because of AI. I'm gonna go. Let's go back to Sinjin. Sinjin, over to you.
I say under, and the reason why is because I've been, I'm the last of the kind of Gen X, and so like I've seen all that real like tech development go on, and the pace of it. And AI is just fucking insane. Now we don't put any AI tooling in our company, and the only reason I do that is because number one is our game's complete, thank God, before all this AI stuff comes on, so we don't have to fight this narrative right on the dev side. But the other thing is like every 2 months it's just fucking amazing. I've never seen development like this in terms of like a core technology improve so much. And so from my point of view, rather than getting into AI now and like getting up to the point where, okay, we get results, and then 1 year later, those results take like 2 weeks rather than like 3 months or 4 months of a kind of learning curve, because the engine comes and just trumps everything you've done. I think it absolutely is possible. But the one thing I'll say is that once that is really possible, right? Like it will be like making hyper casual games in some sense. Like, so what we define as AAA at that time may be very different because the capabilities would have increased so much. But on the flip side of that is like, you could have whatever tools you want, right? At the end of the day, if you don't understand what game design is, it just isn't going to happen. So yeah, Breath of the Wild, great. Another clone 3 years later, you did it for like 1/5 the price or even 1/10 the price, but who's really going to play it? Because there's going to be like 30 other Breath of the Wild clones out there as well.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see the unit economics of everything change. Less players, presumably, because there's more content, but also you don't need to make as much money back, and the entire thing changes. Let's go over to Jerry and then to Dub.
Yeah, I'm actually taking the over. I think it takes a little bit over 3 years to get to that point. Um, I think a good indicator of when we're going to get there is when we start to hear about new AAA games using any AI, right? Because I think the cycle of games that are coming out now are still probably a little bit too early for most of these people to be using AI in the development side of them. I think AI is being used in like the marketing side of things, but I don't know that these games were really developed with AI to assist. So I think once we see, studios come out and just straight up say, like, yeah, we built this game and we saved a year because so many of our devs used AI for dialogue and story writing and whatever. But to my knowledge, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't. I think we're just now hitting that point where AI is good enough to have people start to implement it in their daily workflows. And the refining of that is still going to take a while. But if I had to guess, I'd say definitely over 3, but probably right at the 5-year mark.
Just to push back on that a little bit, Jerry, I think you're speaking broadly to like direct game development and then launching a game or whatever. But we did see Fortnite already have AI Darth Vader that's like cussing and generating lore and calling people out by their first name and stuff like that, which kind of shocked me that Fortnite was one of the first ones to jump into the deep end, but it ended up creating a bunch of viral moments, and I think overall was positive despite maybe some of the blowback they got for the profanity in the game. I'm going to Tatted, or sorry, I think I said Dub, and then I'll go to Tatted.
Yeah, God, I love disagreeing with fucking Jerry here. It's an under for sure. It's just take a look at Kyle Salazar and what he's doing in AI video right now. He made the MAYG trailer, but he just posted like an animated short film that he made using AI, and it like hooked me, was good, made me cry a little bit and feel shit, which is like I never thought that would be happening for AI video this fast, and that's happening. There's already AI digital avatars that literally exist. Like we can replicate fucking grandma and put her in a goddamn teddy bear avatar for Johnny to play with until he's fucking 18. So like I think for sure we're gonna in the next 3 years we're gonna see a major company, whether that's a spin-off of ChatGPT or Elon goes fucking rogue again, or Nvidia decides to like go do something. I think we're gonna see like a big, very similar to what you have with Farcade, Sam, as a big like studio assistance platform for a group of 10 dudes to just plug into and have all the things they need and just need their creativity essentially to produce at what we define as AAA level today.
Yeah, I hear you on Kyle. I think Kyle's very talented, and the MAYG music video was great. So congratulations on that, Sinjin. But when Sam tried to get AI videos of him and we kept kissing. So I think that we're a little bit far off from that.
I think that's
Well,
Unintentionally.
you're
Are you
not.
sure
intentional,
that's
though.
AI?
Unintentionally.
You're not. And you're not in the cool kids club and haven't seen Peyton's really cool shit. So like, nice try.
I will say I do think there's a big difference between AI game dev and AI video gen, but the point still stands that it's progressing rapidly. Tatted over to you, brother. Over under 3 years till we get a 10-person team making games like Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, just a quick clarification question about that, about the prompt. Are these 10-person teams, are they like seasoned senior programmatic developers, or are they, ragtag team of people? Like, just so I understand.
I don't
Yeah,
care
10
what 10
dubs.
people it is. You could take you could take any 10 people you want. You could do all-star lineup, but I just want them to make Zelda by themselves.
Gotcha. I'm gonna go with over. Definitely over. And I'm gonna speak just from my own experience. So I've been vibe coding now with Cursor for the last 6 months. I've probably done I don't know, over 500 hours in the last 6 months vibe coding. And I can definitely tell you that, yes, it's amazing. It's incredible. I can do things so much faster than I could before. I'm learning so much more about just coding in general doing it. But I can also tell you that it's a freaking nightmare. Some of the code that it generates. And the one thing that you come to find is the AI coder lies to you all the time. And what I mean by that is it'll make a code, you'll test it, it'll say all the tests are great, but then when you actually go back and check the code yourself, it's all these errors, it's cascading system failure, but one thing worked, and so now it's saying everything worked. And with how complex it is for a game like Breath of the Wild, for example, and the complex systems that go on underneath, I do still think that there's so much nuance in this type of code where you have to optimize it. It can't be buggy, no latency, all of those things that go into game development, even like screen sizes being the right size, like all of that stuff, like you're still going to have a good amount of people working on it. Now, don't get me wrong, AI is definitely going to speed up the process. But unless you're a team of just you guys were the chief programmatic engineers and you've been doing this for like 30 years already, and you've built all these games with your own two bare hands already, I don't think you're going to be able to make a game to the level of Breath of the Wild. That I don't, you'll definitely be able to make games, but something that complex, there's no way. I don't see it. And I think that the AI coding assistants are leaps and bounds improving all the time, but for it to get to that level, they're gonna have to take like a quantum leap, if you will, for them to ever get there. I'm going to go with Jerry, saying about 5 years. I actually think that's a pretty good baseline based off of how quickly AI is improving. But under 3 years, I would be very surprised, because even looking at ChatGPT from 3 years ago to now, like, yeah, it's much better, but it still hallucinates all the time. It still tells you wrong stuff all the time. It still gives you terrible BS AI sounding answers all the time. So if the easiest part of it being language generation is still not like that amazing 3 years later. Like it's amazing, but not, it could be much better. The coding is an even greater leap, in my opinion. So well over is my take here.
Well over. Interesting. I appreciate the diversification there. Let's go over to Spang, then we'll tag in Gnoc.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the under. Not because I think AI is going to be perfect in the next 3 years, but because we're going to get better at using it and we're going to better understand what teams need and how teams need to interact with AI to make the most out of it. Like the 10-person team that I see making a game like Breath of the Wild in the next 3 years is not going to be a team of a bunch of vibe coders, because you lack the game design, you lack the art direction, you lack the ability to use AI. Like I think what we will see is we will see game teams start incorporating more formal positions around AI, like ahead of, AI model. Like I think we're gonna see much more directed and use case specific implementations of AI. Like I think each studio, I can see each studio having its kind of own agent to manage, meetings and collaborations between art and gameplay and how all of these things mix. And I think that the further that kind of agentic capability is able to be pushed forward in the next 3 years, which seems to be rapidly, the closer we get to that kind of small scale team being able to build something so big. We're still going to need artists, we're still going to need tech leads, and we're still going to need game designers. We're not going to be able to outsource all that stuff, but we're going to be able to maximize their ability to do what they want, because they won't be copy pasting things 800 times, and they'll be able to spin up generated ideas much quicker.
Great take from Wills. Gnoc and then Kevin Lambert. Over under 3 years.
Yeah, I don't mean this to be like a Luddite take here, but this is the easiest over in maybe the history of over under on gamified. And I think for a variety of reasons. Like, okay, listen, if we're talking about how soon will games leverage AI to build AAA games, the answer to that is fucking 6 months ago, right? Like, I think the spirit of this question is, if 10 devs got together and explicitly used AI tools only to build a game, how long will it take? It's still going to take over 3 years for a variety of reasons. Tad had touched on a bunch of them. The tech is getting really good, and it's like most of the way there, but you still lack the control needed to build something as complex as Breath of the Wild. If tech and the code was the only part of game dev that mattered, sure, maybe you can build it in 3 years. But actually designing the fucking game itself is going to take an extended period of time that is probably pushing that 3 year level of planning when you're talking about a game as deep and complex as a true AAA title. For me, I think we get to that stage in that 5 to 10 year window. I would not be surprised if you have small teams building really what we consider today AAA titles 5 to 10 years from now. But game design is still a thing. And if we're trying to abstract away game design into AI, I think that you're losing the plot a little bit in terms of like what game development should be. I think the tech is going to get progressively better. But, you know, right now, even for like relatively polished games, like mobile titles, hyper casual titles with things like save states and stories and progression, it's still difficult to do that now. So 6 months from now, maybe you get to that stage. And a year from now, maybe that stage becomes real quick. But I don't think you're going to see a game like a Breath of the Wild with 150 hours plus of gameplay being developed in the next 3 years, especially because the technology doesn't fucking exist for it to happen, for development to start happening right now. Right? You would need the tech to exponentially get better over the course of the next 18 months. And then you would have, at best, an 18-month window to build a game with 150 hours worth of content. And you have to plan that game. I just don't see it happening. Now, that being said, there's absolutely a world where in 5+ years from now, every team scales down pretty significantly. And most teams begin to build with AI tech, because I do believe it is the future of where the industry is headed. But AAA is the creme, like the creme de la creme. It's at the absolute top of gameplay experience, both from the technical difficulty in building that title and the expertise that goes into designing gameplay loops for a game of that scale. I just don't see it happening because the latter still takes a ton of time.
Gnoc has clearly never asked ChatGPT, what else should I add to this? And then had it design an entire game for him. Gnoc. I'm going to go over to Kevin Lambert, then we're tagging in Tatted. Then we got Jonah, who I know is giga bullish on AI and gaming, which I'm excited to hear from in just a sec. Kevin, over to you.
It's a really interesting choice to pick a Zelda game for this particular topic. You know, AI does what humans can do better, faster, bigger, you know, at scale in a lot of cases. How many Zelda clones are out there on the market? Consider any Zelda game, not even Breath of the Wild, like even like A Link to the Past. How many,
Zero
you
good
know,
ones. Zero good ones.
yeah, none. And the reason for that is it's really, really hard to make those kind of games. It requires such an amazing combination of skill set to be able to do that, which is why you don't see clones. And so, you know, even that just presents like a huge barrier. So, you know, I think asset generation will get there really fast. Like we're already seeing AI generating like these amazing landscapes, character concepts, animation sets, and even game ready assets in a lot of cases. So like I think in 3 years a small team could like visualize a Breath of the Wild style world pretty good, right? But making it feel good to play, to Knox's point, is a totally different beast. And the bottleneck there is systems design. You know, like their genius is in that game in particular are like the emergent systems, the physics, the chemistry, the weather, the traversal stuff. Like those are not just assets; they're interdependencies between each other. And current AI tools really struggle when you try to link things across systems at that level. Like you might be able to prompt your way to a very lush open world, but making the lightning rod kill a goblin during a rainstorm because you dropped the metal sword there, that kind of interaction is going to be a lot tougher. I think AI code development will displace, not replace, game development yet, anyway. Like in 3 years, you'll probably have some turbocharged prototyping and a lot of lower barriers, but the big games still really need like tight controls. And I don't know how good AI is going to be at doing that. It needs content curation, it needs QA and iteration. It's good at catching compile errors, but like catching like quality game design bugs are going to be different. So, you know, TLDR, I think like 3 years gets you an AI Zelda demo. 5 years probably gets you a little indie Zelda clone. And 10 years might be when Nintendo starts to really feel heat from something like this.
Wow. All I can think about is whenever I was trying my best to still be relevant in StarCraft and failing miserably. And then this scrappy little team called AlphaGo was like, we're going to make a StarCraft bot that's better than any professional player you've ever seen. And I was like, haha, it's too complicated. You guys, it'll take a decade. And then like 6 months later, they were just clapping Maru as like the best player in the history of StarCraft at that time, or StarCraft 2, I should say. Tatted, I'm going to you, then to Jonah. Fuck you, knocking your thumbs down, you asshole. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to chime in here as well because one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand right now about AI is just how bad the memory is in majority of LLMs and LLM processes. So one thing that always happens, at least right now in vibe coding, is you can start to code with an IDE, and essentially what happens is it'll forget the code that it wrote just 10 minutes ago, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, I got to write this code again, and then now you're creating a million circular dependencies because the AI itself forgets, and it's hard for it, even if you index the code, it's hard for it to kind of review the entire code and understand what's happening. A game like Breath of the Wild has so much underlying code that for an AI right now to be able to analyze all of it and understand the entirety of the system architecture to then continue building out the game, it's like a fairy tale right now in terms of where we are. And to put it into terms that other people might understand here, obviously you guys have probably been using ChatGPT, you've been using Gemini. If you go tell Gemini or ChatGPT to write you an entire novel, let's say it's like, I don't know, like one of the Harry Potter books, right? Well, you know, they're kind of long. Some of them are super long. Some of them are a little shorter. But like Breath of the Wild is probably like one of the longest Harry Potter books, right? If we're trying to just have ChatGPT right now write you a book, that's that long, it's going to fail miserably because it's not going to be able to connect the stories. It's not going to be able to remember what it wrote in chapter 1 and see what it wrote in chapter 26. Like the story is going to be disjointed. And when you have disjointed code, it doesn't work and it breaks and it leads to cascading systemic failure. And so to think that it can create a game like Breath of the Wild in that amount of time, I just think it's a little it just shows that you'll understand if you start vibe coding. If you guys get on Cursor, if even with Lovable, like you'll see the limitations of these applications. Like, yeah, you can make really cool, like, you know, basic things, but if you're trying to make something more detailed and you're trying to make something more in depth, you need that human in the loop still right now. And we're seeing it today with some of these larger companies failing because they try to build their whole code base using vibe codes, and
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't
Patty,
actually work.
look, let's have this conversation in 1 year from now, right? Because like you can say whatever you're going to say right now, but have you ever seen technology like this on an application level like progress this fast in your entire career? And the answer is no, right? So like your points are really valid right now, but 3 years from now, and it is exponential, like more than hyper fucking exponential. To even say like vibe coding even existed a year ago, that was fucking bullshit. Like even thinking that you could even do that last year was fucking bullshit.
No,
Yeah,
I completely
but to
agree. And
say
but yeah, just to answer Sinjin, it's just the memory systems right now just don't exist for that to work, and the cost, even if they scale up these models like 10x, 20x, 100x by next year, it's still not going to have the memory to do something as like creative or as vast as a
You know
Breath
what
of the
I'll say as
Wild.
well, like in my like real life outside of like Web3, you know where like 90% of my investment meetings are is like for scaling and shit like that. Data centers and fucking power energy generation and like guys that I would never thought were talking about like fucking video cards and fucking Nvidia and stuff like that and processing power. Like these guys are like 60 years old, billionaires who are like just this is like the fucking thing, man. So it's definitely coming, like on the whole scale.
Yeah, the
Totally
other
agree.
piece that I feel like is being left out of this conversation, and we're already seeing this with our best builders at the Farcade, and this is something that we desperately want to eliminate, but for the time being it is necessary, is the people that are building the deepest experiences are actually segmenting the code base. And they're like, well, here's where I deal with this, and here's where I deal with that, and here's where I deal with that. And whenever they do that, it doesn't matter if it can translate the entire thing and keep it perfect or whatever, because they're just working on one system at a time and then they loop it back into the rest of the whole. And so a lot of the time the problem isn't we need more tokens. It's like we just need to figure out how to structure the architecture so that the AI doesn't do shit that's unintuitive to building the experience, which I think is perfectly reasonable to assume a year and a half from now we'll have all kinds of workarounds and products that do it for us and stuff like that. I do want to tag in Jonah, who's joining us. Appreciate you coming up, man. The question here is over under 3 years from now, so 2028, will we have a 10-person team that's able to build a game like Breath of the Wild from Zelda, which is obviously one of the more sophisticated, great experiences that we've had in the 2020s here?
Hmm. I'd probably say over 3 years, but possibly under 5. I think the goal is by 2030. I don't think it's 10 years from now. Um, I agree with Sinjin on certain points where you have the multiplier effect. Like it's not like 1 + 1 is 2 every year. It's like 1 + 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 times 2, and then 4 times 4, and then 6 times. You go up the chain. All of a sudden, you're at a multiple a year like that you just didn't expect. And every 3 months seems to be about 2 years of technological advancement, is what I've seen roughly. So if you kind of like do the math, like okay, like so in 5 years, that's going to be the equivalent of like 20 years of technological advancement. By that time, you could, in theory, then start making a Zelda game that could rival Nintendo. I'm um I don't think really about that. I think of like two things. One, uh, a lot of people think of making a Zelda game as make me a Zelda game .jpg, and then the ChatGPT makes it. There's like so many different tools that go into making it, like your 3D shaders and object rendering, right? Like there's going to be an AI tool for that that does it exceptionally well. Uh, is there a tool for audio design? Okay, well, one team has done that incredibly well. And then there's like these 20 different parts of game design where someone has vertically specialized in that and have done a really good job. And then you get the M&A cycle where Epic Games buys up all those companies, or Unity does, or some other new engine company does, or OpenAI does, and now you have by 2030 a complete AI game engine as well as competing game engines. The other thing is like I don't like to think about what a game used to be and can you replicate it. I like to like I'll give you an example. My little sister hates NFTs, but she loves buying Labubus, which is practically the same thing.
I didn't know
Until
Dove
you
was your
like,
little sister. That's wild.
oh God, but you instead of like saying, they're just NFTs. I'm like, okay, show me the entire thing. And I'm looking, I'm watching her go through the entire process of buying one, collecting one, minting one, because they basically do mints effectively. And they basically perfected what NFTs should have been. They just didn't do it on chain. And I encourage if you have a sister and watch them buy a Labubu, you'll understand why it works. And so I think the same thing with games. I don't think the next generation of kids is gonna give a fuck about Zelda or gonna maybe even give a fuck about Mario. I don't. I think, I'll give you an example of games they're playing right now. They download VO3, they pay whatever it is per month, right? I pay 250, but I pay for the ultra plan. They pay whatever it is a month, and it is a game. You're prompting the game. It gives you a random loot box style reward for doing that. You show it on a dashboard. People compete in the form of views and the winners can make money or the winners get recognition in the form of social credit. And that in itself is a game. They are using prompting a video to make their own video game. And there's other things like we've nearly solved brain dancing. If you played Cyberpunk, we've nearly solved it. There is a company, I'm forgetting the name, they've invented a new file format where when you take a picture in that file format, the AI processes it and creates a 3D environment around that image, insinuating what that surrounding is. And then you can actually move inside of it like a WebGL game, right? So in theory, I could take a picture of us hanging out at the Wolves Den and I could turn that into a dodgeball game. And now we're throwing, bricks at each other in this photograph that was turned into a game, almost like Expedition 33, right? In that little story universe. So I don't think about what the next Zelda is. I'm like, what is the new behavior that still has a consistent game thesis and theory? And that's the thing I'm investing in. And that's why I pretty much moved away from Web3 gaming, to be honest, and to going all into that because AI is getting closer to Web3 gaming than Web3 gaming is.
Yeah, hard agree. Had a really interesting discussion with somebody actually on that exact point of like the real Web3 actually might just be AI. And I think it's really a combination of the two. Blockchain kind of being the back end and AI being the thing that's back end, but also a lot more consumer facing, which I think is an interesting argument. Gnoc, I'm headed to you, buddy.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on AlphaGo because you had brought it up, and I think that this is something that a lot of people also do. And I think it's important to point out why something like AlphaGo or like chess bots or poker bots work. And it's because they're operating within solvable environments, right? And if you think, no, a game like Dota or League is not solvable, you're wrong, because even when they model those AI on like the actual physical mechanical abilities of players, they dummy professional teams for a simple reason. There's an optimal route to farming. There's an if this, then that statement for games like League and Dota. So when the game processes this information, it acts immediately based off of hundreds of millions of gameplay samples that it has. And that's why it beats players, because the growth, the items, the scaling of the actual players themselves exponentially outpace what happens from professional teams because they're not operating in the optimal route. There hasn't been a human being on Earth, alive or dead, who can beat a computer at chess in like 35 years. And the reason for that is chess is a solvable game. So I think the equation of, hey, AI is really good or better than even the best human beings in certain specific tasks, and therefore it'll also be better at humans at other tasks somewhere down the line, I think is a little wrong in the sense that you're not solving solvable equations when you're talking about building a game, right? If it was as simple as one input out equals one input in, you would have everybody would have the perfect game. So when you're looking at games like Dota or League or chess or poker, where there are game theory optimal strategies for the way that you're supposed to actually interact, yes, there's mechanical skill involved, but players have to process that game theory, and computers can do it at a much higher rate because it is operating within a structure, a set limit, an environment that is controlled. The same is not true for things like game development. So I think we get there, but the idea that 5 years ago AlphaGo could beat any Dota pro team or any League pro team, so therefore in 3 years a game development studio will be able to build a game like Zelda, I don't think is entirely accurate, because you're removing the AI and the set of skills and information that it's taking in and applying it to like a game that has no rules. And I think that is like the differentiator here. And this isn't like a jab at you, Sam. This is like a thing that I believed and I hear a lot all the time. But I do think it's an important distinction, right? You're no longer operating within a solvable premise. You have to have some form of human creativity, and that goes back to that game strategy and systems design thing that Kevin brought up. So I do think AI is incredibly impressive now. It's going to be at a stage where in let's call it 5 years, people are able to build games at a very high level. But I think part of the challenge of getting there is that there are no rules.
I think the pushback that I would have there, Gnoc, is like, just because the entirety of it isn't maybe solvable, I agree with that point. Again, doesn't mean that modular pieces of it aren't. Like, it is solvable to say, give me a physics environment that works properly. It's solvable to say, give me a character that looks like this. Like, there's an answer for what that is. And I would argue that, like, probably 98% of a video game is a solvable equation. And then you put a really smart person that's leading and doing all the decision making. You actually said this to me and it stuck with me deeply, which is the future is curation, not creation. And I think what we're going to have is a bunch of people that are sort of like prompting the AI to create stuff. And then there's going to be a curator at the top of the hierarchy saying, no, not the physics, like it shouldn't be like that. It should be like this. And then they go back and they prompt 100 times and say, okay, how does it feel now? And the person that is the game designer is the person approving or denying, and they fill in the rest of that 2%. I don't think it's really an argument against whether or not it's possible or whether or not we'll get there. The question isn't, will the AI do everything for you and you can be a complete fucking 60 IQ idiot and still get a great game? Is it possible with 10 really competent people making the decisions? I see Sinjin with the hand up.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that take, Sam. And I'm not disagreeing with Gnoc in the context that he's saying as well. But like again, this is a tool, and my information might be outdated. But what they've seen is in chess is that obviously AI trumps what do you call it, humans, right? But AI human-led teams trump AI teams, and it's that aspect of again AI as this ultra tool, and again most of you probably don't remember like actually having to fucking take photos and like actually develop them, right? So when digital cameras came in, right? And in my freshman year in high school, I took photography and we were like inhaling like fucking, whatever, all the chemicals in the dark room, right? And that was a real fucking thing, man. And you take the picture and fuck. So when pictures and when cameras came in, they're like, oh, it's gonna be the death of fucking drawing, like it's all bullshit, like whatever, like that. But photographers turned it into this huge fucking like skill-based artistry, right? And then when digital cameras came in, everyone's like, oh fuck, like this is all bullshit, like like this is like pictures are never gonna be good again. But digital cameras took away that entire like aspect of waiting or having that one shot or having to develop or like getting instant feedback and stuff like that, and it became a tool, right? But like digital cameras didn't make people better photographers or didn't make it like that they had better photos, right? It just was another tool. And I'm going to say one thing, and like this is kind of like just take it as old man advice at 50. The most important thing that I've learned over these years in being in tech is that it's so easy to be obsolete, right? And like if you guys already have this like this mentality, you're going to be fucking obsolete already, because the way the tools and the technology, goes, you have to kind of embrace it, not where it is at the moment, it's where it's kind of going, and keep in mind that these are tools, right? Nothing's going to replace that human like direction of like, even in poker, like how am I going to direct the bankroll? How much bankroll do I need to really optimize for my needs for this, right? Which table selection do I want? Which site do I want to put the AI on, right? These are all human kind of things which the AI may optimize for, but the humans have a better idea of it based on like their own greater context. So just keep that in mind, guys. I mean, like talking about it right now, I'm telling you, in my fucking 30 years in tech, okay, I've never seen this level of like development ever. So like I'm still like under 3 years that we'll have the capability to do it. Whether or not we will get a game like that, I don't know. I like Jonas's take in terms of like where it's gonna go in terms of what different games are and stuff like that and where it looks. I'm very excited for the future.
I love it, man. I love the diversity of opinions here. I love that we had some hard overs, some hard unders. Really, really interesting discussion here, and also with some of the earlier topics. I need everybody's MVP vote in 10 seconds or less because we got to put a bow on this show. I know Kohji was already with an early vote for Sinjin, so I'm gonna go to Sinjin and get his MVP.
Yeah, my MVP is Lemz. You know, like I shit on everybody here as peons, and Lemz is not really one at all. Not even not really one. I mean, many times when I've had like just I didn't know what the fuck is kind of going on in Web3, Lemz has been my go-to guy, and he's always given me the most solid advice. And I'm so glad that he's on this panel because every week on week, like I almost have no disagreements with Lemz. I think he's spot on. And if any project's looking for a really fucking solid motherfucking, you know, advisor, Lemz is your man.
Wow, the little lizard legend with the highest of praise. Over to you, my friend. Who's your MVP of the day?
Yeah, geez, that was a nice one. Thank you, sir, Sinjin. My MVP, though, for today, I'm not going to do the classic reciprocation. I'm going to switch it up. Tatted was on fire today, so it's good to have you as a regular on the show now. It feels like you're here almost every week, and yeah, some great takes today.
Thanks, Lemz. Good to be here.
Yeah, dude, it's so good to have somebody that's not afraid to speak their mind, kind of regardless of where the panel's at. Tatted is always willing to say it how he sees it. Over to you, buddy, for who's your MVP?
Yeah, I'm going to give it today to Jerry. I thought Jerry's takes were extremely well thought out. I thought he had a lot of good ones. I agreed with most of the stuff he says. So, Jerry, the man who looks great in striped shirts, he's the one.
Jerry, apparently tuning in live from a prison. Jerry, where are you? Who are you sending your MVP vote to?
They don't call me striped shirt singer for no reason. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Sinjin. He knocked it out of the park. But yeah, Sinjin killed it. I think he's been on fire the last couple weeks.
Sinjin,
2 Red Bulls, baby.
Going to Wills. Wills, who you got as MVP, bud?
It's got to be Sinjin. Sometimes I feel like I've come to the top of a mountain for his wisdom, and today was one of those days.
I love that, man. Dub, over to you, bud. Who's your MVP?
Yeah, also giving it to Sinjin. What you guys don't realize is that he actually showed up last night at 3 a.m. For Gamified, not realizing that it was Tuesday, and ended up ripping Dota for 2 hours anyways, since he was up. So the fact that he just performed like he did on 2 Red Bull, it's just I'm blown away. I can barely fucking hang, and he's out here doing laps on everyone. So props to him on doing it for as long as he's done it here as well too. It's absurd.
It really is, man. My brain can't comprehend. Gnoc, I'm going to you then to Kevin Lambert. Who you got?
First of all, I'm a little disappointed you don't understand the tatted reference to Jerry in striped shirts. There's a photo from Wolves Den this year in which I think it was Jerry, Kohji, and somebody else was wearing the exact same fucking
Charlie.
shirt. Yeah, Charlie. We're all wearing the same shirt. Yeah, that's just ingrained in my brain.
Not everyone's that quick, Gnoc. Sorry,
we didn't
Takes
coordinate
special talent.
Yeah, it just happened to work
I
out
hope
that
not,
way.
bro. I don't know why you would coordinate it. The MVP this week for sure, Sinjin. Weird episode for me. I agreed with where Sinjin was going. I disagreed on how he believes it's going to get there, but I don't think Sinjin said anything that I disagreed with today from like a pure, this is where the ball is going sort of situation. So I think this was like a really lucid episode from Sinjin. Evidently, wake up at 3 o'clock, chug 2. I'm going to try this next time. Chug a couple of Red Bulls and just fucking dominate the
dude,
panel.
you're gonna end up back in the hospital and scare the shit out of us all again.
Hey man, we're going to go in a fun way,
Kevin, last but not least, who's your MVP, brother?
I'm going to give it to Tatted this time. Such a fire take on the game studio raising 55 million and all of the nuances there, which was great. I agreed with it, and several other good takes throughout the episode. It's you, Tatted, this for me.
Tatted with a solid second place, but Sinjin with 5 votes. Absolutely dominant victory over today's episode. Over to you, brother. 60 seconds of FaceTime. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Yeah, and the Red Bull has really kicked in, so I'll do a couple of games of Dota before I head off to bed. Actually, I got to stay up for some meetings in the morning. I have an 8 a.m. Yeah, I just want to say, like the narrative in Web3 gaming is really dead at the moment, and I hope that we have like this kind of like transition to something a lot better. I think, the game's being good on Steam. I think it's fantastic. I think we still really haven't gotten it together to even really call ourselves an industry yet. And it's easy to kind of look at AI and stuff like that and see where it's going. But again, like gaming is a hit-driven industry, and Web3 is for me not a feature. It's an innovation. I couldn't launch on Steam because I don't think like it's good enough. And I think the path that everyone here is taking, it is extremely hard path. And the analogy I've come to understand is that we're not going through like a deep dark valley and we're going to try to see what happens. Is like we're climbing again that North Face mountain, and I hope everyone gets to climb it and see the dawn, because I think it will be something beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Great message from Sinjin. I know you're continuing your launch over in Bangkok. We're wishing you the best, brother, and thanks for continuing to make time for us at 4 a.m. It's absolutely unreal. Proud of you and excited to see what the future holds for Big Sinj and the MAYG team. Big shout out to Dub, also finding a way to wake up early in the morning, make it to the show. Tatted with an electric episode. Big Kevin Lambert from Project O crushing it. Gnoc from Magic Eden, always appreciate you, bro. Lemz also getting a sneaky MVP vote and a big endorsement. Congrats on that. The Jer Bear always bringing some humor and some great takes. Appreciate that. Big Spang also lifting us both metaphorically and physically at the next conference because he's a beast from AVAX. Appreciate you. And we had Peyton sneaking around behind us with the WolvesDAO account today. We love the patron of pooches. It's been an awesome episode, guys. Love all of you. See you back here, same time, same place, 4 p.m. Eastern every single Wednesday. And don't forget to rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you consume podcasts on. We really appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Oh, I forgot to do the ad reads. Oh my God, I'm out of my game. Welcome to the chain where the frost fuels the fire and gameplay meets glacier grade tech. Avalanche, the official chain of gamified and your gateway to a frostbitten frontier of fun with an $100 million AI fund melting minds and alliances like Legends. Excuse me, sorry, I'm not prepared for this. With legends like Godzilla Game, T1 Esports, solo leveling, and more. This is a snowball effect of next-gen gaming. Most chains promise potential. Avalanche delivers payloads with a battle pass with rewards that rewards reality, skills, time, and sweat. Climb, earn, unlock NFTs and AVAX tokens. Then meet me at the next summit for the after party. And of course, gather round builders and believers. It's time to grant yourself a future worth playing. You've heard of skill trees, but Game 7 is growing a contribution forest. Summon isn't just a protocol, it's a passport to permanence. Your actions get anchored and your influence gets immortalized thanks to the official infrastructure of Gamified. And millions play every single day, but only a few are building games. The Farcade is flipping the scripts, no-code tools, on-chain publishing, and built-in social distribution. Come build a mobile game in minutes to get real players and real feedback. It's game time, baby. Thanks again, guys. Been an amazing episode. Can't wait to run it back next week. See you soon. Smooches!